See,
Beautiful.
I fixed it. We have
so
audio
good.
back. So,
So
indeed.
good.
Hello, welcome back. Oh,
We've not been episode 5 for 4 weeks in a row.
indeed, episode 4 for like 6 weeks. No, we actually now have episode 13 with titles. Indeed. Now, welcome back to the Sith And Scoundrel podcast. I'm Phill, of course, joined as usual by Matt and Tess for, well, we're going to talk about these last 2 episodes of Ahsoka.
Woody's Roundup.
Ooh.
I'm Sheriff Woody. Howdy, howdy, howdy.
Wrong fandom.
God damn it. Sorry, guys. I was meant to be on with my Toy Story podcast tonight. I thought it was Tuesday.
God. That's triggering. I don't know why.
I love those films. It's so good.
They also, to be fair, you can imagine them being round the radio, literally recording it. It would be fantastic. And I would listen to that shit. Like, the things they would say, especially growing up, the more things they would find, like, there's going to be a crusty stock somewhere that's going to be a entire discussion point.
It would be. That's
Why
true.
have I never thought about that? Yeah, that's literally so true.
Yeah.
Well, I really like Duke Kaboom as well. He was great. He's from Canada, not Canada. That's the best line in the film.
Oh, relatable.
Well, this went downhill very quickly, but
Canada's greatest film. Duke Kaboom.
You can blame Matt.
I blame him for everything.
Yeah,
Howdy,
same.
howdy,
It's
howdy.
fine.
Job looking after me at uni. You know, it's fine. Drop me in his head.
Right.
But I didn't even know that. I didn't know you went to uni together. Total side tangent here.
Oh, we didn't. I never went to uni. I just adopted Phill.
Okay. I got to...
He was in my Games Workshop store. I took him under my wing, trained him to be a Robin.
I spent more time in GW than I did at uni. It was great.
I mean, fair enough.
True.
You know what I
Similar to the
didn't?
degree.
All I did in college was eat steak sandwiches and watch Sailor Moon. So I mean,
Yeah, I
Hannah.
just took my
That's a
student loan, went down to Matt, went, here you go, have it, and then I should have toys for the next few months. That's just how it worked. And that went, you're poor, you can't eat, here you go, have roast.
That's true. That's true. I'd overcook food, and well, I wouldn't overcook food. I'd cook food, but I'd cook too much food and feed Phill. And I'm sure when you left Paul's, you left like a bunch of Tupperware containers just in the freezer, and in my head they're still there.
It wouldn't surprise me. Genuinely wouldn't surprise
and a beautiful friendship was born. Look at you guys. Look at you now.
me. Indeed. That was, what, 11 to 14 years ago, whatever it was.
Ew, what is time?
2009.
Yeah, 14 years ago. Your math is wrong.
I was still in high school. I didn't graduate till 2010. Y'all are way older than me. Sorry.
Yes.
I'm the youngling in the group.
Yes, we are. Speaking of younglings, the Adventures of Ahsoka.
Indeed.
What a segue.
That was good. That was good. That was professional.
For you, that was
We
done
tried.
good, I'll give you that. I mean, to be fair, though, we weren't on last week purely just because supposed things cropped up at the last second. So we got to part 7 and part 8, and I have a feeling there's going to be a different reaction to part 7 than just to part 8. I mean, to be fair, I'll put it out there before we start. I don't think part 8's perfect. I may have loved the finale, but I have gripes. I have quite a few gripes.
Said this to you yesterday before Tess had watched it. Phill and I had a chat first thing in the morning, and I am on the after Andor and Book of Boba. Well, less Book of Boba Fett, but especially Andor. I think that maybe Star Wars has a problem where it's getting bloated in the middle. So you get a couple of episodes, then you get a couple of really good episodes, and it kind of peters out. And I feel that this follows that same formula. But episode 5, we got to start with Chopper on trial. Which was absolutely incredible. Seeing him finally buying that stock.
I mean,
Finally, for all his war crimes.
Like, Chopper is up there. He has a kill count that's like was it 49,000 people?
Oh no,
But he's so cute,
I
though.
watched a TikTok video. They worked out his kill tally is like 70,000 plus because he blows up that Star Destroyer, and then the average amount of people on a Star Destroyer is like 5,000 or something stupid like that.
Yep.
Oh my god.
Yeah,
Chopper up there in the ranks. God, I love that.
he is. So he was
Afterlife.
finally on trial, which properly cracked me up.
It's why I like him. He's a murder droid. I mean, to be fair, R2's no better.
No, that's a point.
I think
R2 effectively helped blow up the Death Star, which was millions of people before you even get started, let alone the Clone Wars, which was tens of thousands of battle droids.
The bit that got Chanel in Rebels was when they find the baby in the TIE fighter, and Zeb's like, "No, Chopper, we can't blow it up with the baby in there." Her face was just like, "What?" He's like, "We don't know if it's a baby Inquisitor."
My bit that always gets me is the episode where, which is funny that I'm bringing this up, is where R2 and C-3PO show up in Rebels for the first time, and they're on that space bus, and they're like, "Astromech's the back of the bus," and you're like, "Ooh!" And Chopper's like, "No!"
To be fair, I love that scene purely because you had the original designs for R2 and 3PO in Chopper and the protocol droid. So it's just like Macquarie artwork, which I absolutely adore. So I quite like that. I was quite on board with that. But yeah. Although speaking of Goldenrod, though, he did make quite a lovely cameo. And I'm quite on board for it.
Such thing. When I heard him, before he came on screen, I was like, "Oh, for fuck's sake." But really embarrassing for that senator guy. He got put down by 3PO. I was like,
so perfect.
It was so perfect, and also, but the entire time I was thinking, I was like, Matt's gonna hate this. I was like, 3PO shows up, and Matt's gonna be seething.
I was just like, oh great, it's him. But then, like, when you get put down by 3PO, who's like the lamest character in canon, you're just like, yeah, there's no coming back from that, because that just
but
I got really teary because it was like Leia and stuff, but it wasn't. I was like, ugh.
But to be fair, though, would you rather that? Would you rather a hologram, like a CG'd hologram?
No, I preferred that, to be honest. I think it would have been distasteful a little bit, in my opinion.
It was something like Rex.
Okay, that's a fair point.
No, it needed some gravitas to it to be able to pull off.
So they put in C-3PO. They needed gravitas. Oh, here he comes, fucking Captain Gravitas himself. Yeah, right, Phil. It needed some gravitas, and it's a shame it didn't.
All the things out of anyone they could have said, they said fucking 3PO.
Look, 3PO doesn't have gravitas, but he comes with Leia's gravitas. It's gravitas by proxy.
Speaks so many languages. Don't forget.
What if it was Chewie?
See?
Yeah, okay. Yeah, that would have been better. Or Lando.
With his guns blazing.
Chewie or Lando. Like.
Or Han.
Or R2.
Or R2. Yeah, I was thinking, where's R2? R2 with C-3PO. That would have been a duo. You know, they could have brought. Yeah.
Yeah.
That would have been cool. Luke.
Oh yeah, maybe Han carrying a baby. Han carrying a baby, man.
Yep, could have been a thing. Although I suppose by this point, no, he would have been 9.
Han with a kid, and then could be like, "Hi Ben, how are you?"
You could end up seeing Ben and Jason together, which would be cool.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
So, this is my thing about the last couple of episodes of Ahsoka. There's been so many opportunities for them to start building a bridge into the sequel trilogies at this point. Like, they could have brought in Ben. Or what if 3PO was with Ben and it was just like, my mum sent me or something.
Yeah, but we didn't notice. But, you know, there are Easter eggs, as Phil pointed out in that picture that someone decoded, that Ben is, you know, that whole list Balin has. You know, his name is on there. So I don't know, or no, was that Obi-Wan? I'm not sure.
No, but no, Ben's on there. No, it's not Obi-Wan.
I thought it was Ben,
yeah.
More something for the casual fan who doesn't know how to read alphabet.
True, but the casual fans gonna know who 3PO is.
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like you want gravitas. It would have been a really good opportunity to put Rex in there. It would have been a really good opportunity for it to be Zeb.
Yeah.
I know. Don't even get me started that they didn't even. Like I said earlier, like I don't know if it's because the actor couldn't do it or what, but they really should have brought in Zeb and Callus. I would have been happy to see Callus.
It could have been Callus. But
Callus
wasn't it during the time that Leia's like unelectable because they found out Darth Vader's her dad?
Yeah, it's no, a little bit later is that. So that's
this is later than Bloodlines.
So this is earlier than Bloodlines. Bloodlines is another 6 years away.
Okay, that's fine. Because I rewatched it today, and I was just like, oh, hang on, isn't this the time frame where everyone's just not trusting her at all, and she's got no authority anywhere?
Nerd moment. Is Blood, for you, Phil, because you'd know this, is Bloodlines written by the person who wrote Lost Stars?
Claudia Gray, yes.
Yeah, I thought it was Claudia Gray. Okay, cool. So it's on my list.
Yeah,
I have just finished Lost Stars, and it is a hell of a book. It's so good. But Bloodlines,
I know.
For me,
I finished Dark Disciple, Phil, and that was devastating enough.
Yeah. The ending to that is just no.
It builds up, and it's super cute, and you're like, "This is great," and then you're like, "Oh wait, but it's Palpatine, so like, it's not going to be great." And then
but somehow
Dooku
returned.
Yeah.
It's
Palpatine
I'm gonna make
all along.
It was cool to have them being like, "Oh, Leia did this," and Mon Mothma being all like, "You didn't tell me this," and Hera being like, "Well, I didn't know until just now, so it's fine."
Yeah,
that was a cool moment.
I was disappointed that Mon Mothma didn't like. I guess she kind of, in a way, tried to like have her corner, but also she wasn't just like, "Oh yeah, no, shut the hell up." Do you know what I mean?
As much as I love Mon Mothma, she has the problem of her entire career has been fighting against the autocrat. Has been fighting against someone who has complete authority and complete control. So she's trying to do things as democratically as possible, which unfortunately means that things get more delegation. There's less kind of decisive action. It means that sometimes she doesn't have the backbone she once had when she was leading the Rebel Alliance. So at this point, she's trying to placate as many senators as she can, which is why Senator Ziono gets away with what he does, which shouldn't be the case. But it's another reason why the Republic fails.
She is the best part of Andor as well, and it really builds on what Phil's saying. Genevieve Douglas in Andor is freaking incredible.
It's interesting because she has been the most consistent throughout most of the series that we've had recently, which I think was really interesting. She's just everywhere all the time. And I'm like, oh, hey, it's Mon Mothma.
Had Carrie Fisher not died, I could have seen Carrie in those roles instead of Genevieve Douglas. And I think using Genevieve Douglas as Mon Mothma as a figurehead for the Rebellion and the New Republic as it is now is because we can't have Carrie.
So
that's a fair point.
Bloodlines was written before Carrie passed away, and Mon Mothma was already set up as Chancellor in that because Leia had no desire to be in that position, even though she was highly requested. I do think you would have seen more of Carrie, but I think it kind of, at least as horrible as it sounds, it's at least a convenient new figurehead in that role. You don't have to try and create a new character from scratch. You have someone who already has that kind of background and history, so it's a nice little plug-in. As much as horrible as it is to say, obviously, because I would have loved to have seen Carrie do more, but at least it gives that kind of, it makes sense. So
I think you're entirely right, but I think that's why we're seeing a lot of Mon Mothma now. But she's great. She's the actress is great. She's always a real delight to watch on screen and stuff. She's fantastic. So a lot of time for her. So she pulls them out of it, and then it cuts to Ahsoka leaving the Purrgil into a minefield, doesn't it?
Yeah, that was brutal.
A little bit, but I love that scene because it was Star Wars in this kind of TV realm has been able to push a few more boundaries than they can on screen, especially for a younger audience. Where this was a case of, here are literal cute space whales. Here's a giant minefield will blow the absolute crap out of them.
Well, that's what Star Wars does best.
What? Bomb
Makes
the
you
whales.
feel things. I was going for like emotional impact, but yeah, that works too.
Well, Disney now owns Fox, which has The Simpsons, which means you have the whole Nuke the Whales poster. That now has become canon.
Oh my god, that's so apt. I love that. I love that so much. Oh my god.
Yeah, I thought that was like, it was super horrific. Actually, like the noises the Purgo were making. But it's not Star Wars unless someone's flying through a precarious asteroid field at some point.
This is very true. But what it helps set up for people who haven't seen Rebels, it shows how serious Thrawn is. Like, it shows immediately that he's not to be messed with. When he says, shoot them without prejudice, it is, I mean it, kill every single last one of them because we can't have her getting through because, crap, her master's Anakin Skywalker, therefore I'm in trouble.
That was really interesting how he kind of read her LinkedIn profile and just went, oh, is she alone? I
was thinking like, like, I noticed that too.
General Anakin Skywalker. Is she alone?
Well, the thing is, though, he he worked alongside Anakin and Vader, both in terms of the Clone Wars and then in later on when it comes to the Galactic Empire. So in the Clone Wars era, he happened to be going into lesser space, as they call it, from the Ascendancy, and came across Anakin and ended up going on a mission with him, which they end up going back to the same planet later. So it's in the second Thrawn book, Alliances. You see the relationship there, but you also see that Thrawn's the only a couple of people to figure out who Vader really is, because he kind of sees the similar traits, sees the thought processes, and he says a couple of things, and Vader literally takes him to one side and goes, I don't know what you're referring to, I don't know what you're talking about, but if you say another word, you're dead. And it's very much...
The Vader says Anakin Skywalker was a really good general in the Jedi Order.
But it's so... When he found out, obviously, that Ahsoka was his apprentice, like, oh, if she's got anywhere near the intelligence he has, then, yeah, I'm in trouble. Because Vader / Anakin outthinks Thrawn, because he thinks him in a different path. Thrawn's very logical, very methodical, but he's very tactful, whereas what undoes tactics is chaos, it's randomness. Well, what does Anakin and Ahsoka excel at? It's chaos. It's why Obi-Wan was fed up with them both. He's like, just... Why are you doing that? I mean, you get the results done, but not in the way I expect it to. Why is there mass genocide here when I expect a result? It's just, it's a thing. And it's why he has that such a, even for Thrawn, it's quite a visceral reaction, like the reaction on his face, which is another reason why I love the fact they brought in Lars Mikkelsen, because the voice of Thrawn is the most important part. That, you talked about gravitas earlier, ironically, this is proper gravitas. That voice has authority. And for Thrawn to be scared, there has to be a reason behind it, and Ahsoka is a good reason for it.
That is a good thing. Very much. I mean, I really liked it. I liked this episode. I think this is the episode I said to you, Tess, that this was just basically an episode of Rebels.
It was, basically.
Episode 7 is an episode of Rebels, isn't it?
Especially when it pans back to, obviously, like Ahsoka turns off the engine, they're sitting there, they're waiting, and then it pans to Sabine and Ezra kind of traveling, and he's asking her all these questions, and he's like, so, like, we're going home, and she's like, yeah, sure. He's like, so how's Ahsoka? And she's like, yeah, sure. You're just like, oh,
well, that's it. She does just sit there, and every time Ezra talks to her, she just goes, it's complicated. He's like, okay, so how is everyone? It's complicated. Okay, so how's this? Is it complicated?
Little stuff there. Like,
I am a bit remiss that I don't think we got to see the scene where Sabine tells them how they got there.
Yeah. I wanted to see that because the shit would have hit the fan.
Yeah, and I wanted to see her go, look, Ezra, we can't get you home, but in order to get you home, I kind of came here with these guys to get Thrawn. I led them here. And now Ahsoka has turned up in a Purgil following me. So for her to be like, I'm not even pissed off Ahsoka, but I kind of potentially doomed the entire galaxy.
Yep.
Yeah, it's like
Yeah.
Ahsoka is dead. All I could think about was finding you.
Gotta save Ezra. Yep.
Yeah, and that was it. And that was. I would like to see her explain the thought process. So I was left after the episode. Sabine's one of my favorite characters, and I was left after that one going, I don't like how you've acted this entire way because you've just been.
Who are you?
Yeah, it's a very egocentric and self-centric kind of point of view from her. It's very much, I'm doing this for me, not for you. It's so selfish.
But it is, and like she did that in Rebels though. Do you remember when she was like talking? She wouldn't talk about her family, and there was a whole thing about the Mandalorians, and she was very much like selfish in the way she had this whole fight with Kanan at one point in Rebels about how she was like, I can do this, I don't need your help, and like she was being really selfish. So I mean, there is aspects of that, but she was a teenager at that point. This woman is a grown adult. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. Like,
I would have liked to scene where Ezra finds everything out and basically turns around and goes, "You shouldn't have come here." And because you think about what she did in context, where she just willingly gave everything over for the sake of going to find Ezra, and there was this momentous, huge decision that the character made that has a massive knock-on impact to the entire galaxy at this point, and she suffered no repercussion or ramification for doing so. And even for Ezra to go, "You shouldn't have come," and held her accountable for what she did, I would have liked to have seen that, because it's one of the other things that kind of bugged me, is that it really set up, and you think about just what that implies for everything we know at this point in time, just from The Mandalorian and Book of Boba Fett and everything, and the impact it's going to have on those characters. And this is leading to a movie. Obviously not in the story, it's not leading to a movie, but in real life, obviously. Yeah. And there was no been no repercussion for Sabine making that decision. Everyone's just
no conversation of I wanted to come home, but not like this.
Yeah.
Oh, but even in episode 8, and I'm gonna skip forward a little bit, but it's relevant, where Ahsoka's just like, "This is our home now."
Oh God, don't.
But like, not once has anyone chastised Sabine for that decision. No one's kind of gone, "You put everyone we love in danger."
She has a brief conversation with her. We'll talk about it, I'm sure, but she did have a brief conversation with Sabine. Like, she's like, "You're not mad at me?" And she's like, "No." And you're just like, "What the hell?" I'm fuming.
So I feel like there's no real...
We'll get to that point a bit later, but it is a good point to make.
Yeah, but it's implied knowledge, isn't it? At no point in these 2 episodes or 3 episodes does Sabine... Do we see Sabine tell Ezra how she got there, what's happening, and that they have to get on Thrawn ship to get home. That doesn't happen. And I feel like it's implied that conversation happened, because when they turn up at the Chimera, Ezra's not going, "Hang on, what?" So the conversations happened, but we've not been privy to it. And I just kind of feel like that would have been really good to add some sort of emotional tension into it, because we know Ezra has been privy to straying slightly into the dark side of things with the holocron and stuff. And yes, he's found peace with himself, but he's kind of like, through Rebels, he's quite hot-headed and he's quite impulsive. And just to see that kind of reaction, that aspect, I don't know. I feel like that could have happened, and it hasn't.
It was a bit of a missed opportunity. It really was.
Yeah, they really do. And they're just chatting and being buddies, and that's fine because they're buddies, but someone needs to be like, "Sabine, you fucked up."
Yeah.
Yeah.
100%.
No one's gone, you messed up. This is a problem. So yeah, that was strange for me. That conversation, I don't like in media and things and franchises where someone makes such a massive decision and there's no real detriment to it happening for the character. Obviously the detriment is Thrawn has come back, but for Sabine, they're all just like,
the galaxy's gonna pay.
Yeah, because she made that choice, and it all does come down to that choice, doesn't it? That's the thing. But having no ramifications takes away any real emotional weight to that decision.
It can be like a fleeting. Yeah, because we initially, when she does hand him the map, initially all of us watching that were like, oh my God, what the hell? And there was such an emotional impact there. And then it fizzles out because it's like, that didn't even need to happen if you are going to continue on the series with the reactions that people have had to her in regards to the decisions that she made as an adult. I just want to, as an adult.
Yeah. Well, the even bigger implication is you didn't have the conversation with Ahsoka where she was like, I thought you were dead, so I did this. Which is, if you're going to be a Jedi are selfless. This is not selflessness. This is by far the most selfish thing you could have done because you end up dooming everyone else. You cannot think of yourself. You have to think of the big picture. This is not the way of the Jedi.
We had 4 seasons of Rebels and 6 episodes of Ahsoka with people telling Sabine she can't be a Jedi, right?
Yeah.
Foreshadowing for episode 8.
We'll get to
it. Like 5 seasons of something, right, where people just tell Sabine she can't be a Jedi. It's really bugging me, and it's in my mind for some reason, and I don't know why.
Anyway,
I mean, before we get to that point, that is the awesome scene where they do finally get caught up with the round the roundhouses with the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
You mean the Woodlight wagon? Yeah.
Where Sabine does go, here is your lightsaber. That's okay. The Force is my ally, and they get shoved into one of their homes.
Do you know what? And I know we've not had the Kenobi discussion, but one of I think the bossest moments in Kenobi that I really, really loved was when when Obi-Wan's Vader is fighting all of them, are fighting the Fifth Sister, and he's fighting Reva, and he's not even using the lightsaber. He's just deflecting it with his hands, and I was like, oh, that's so to see Ezra doing a really similar thing, I was like, yeah, that's cool.
Yeah. I was really in that episode. I remember being slightly disappointed that he denied using his old lightsaber. I was like, just fight them with a lightsaber, and then he gets his ass whooped, and you're like, see, but I mean,
there was the great line that came before that where he sees Shin Hati, and he's like, who's she? Does she have a lightsaber? Great.
Yeah, right.
That was class.
Is she like us? No. Oh, okay.
The Baylan and Shin conversation was in that episode.
Yeah.
It's just like,
yes, it was.
Your path takes you somewhere else. Like, I have to leave you be at this point. That was very cool. Again, annoyed we didn't really get a tail end to whatever Baylan's doing.
No, that is rather unfortunate. I mean, might as well talk about it because it is such a little part of, unfortunately, what was the finale. There's obviously more to it that now we're not going to see, or we could see if they recast. I don't know at this stage how I feel about them recasting Baylan. There is a few actors like Carl Urban or something I would be happy with, or there's someone needs to be able. Yeah, he needs to have that. Whoever plays it, they need to fill those rather large boots. But where he's going and what's going to happen next, it's
open-ended, isn't it? Yeah,
it is.
It's frustrating because Baylan and Shin both felt incredibly important to the whole story. They've been there from the start. They've been great from the start. Their payoff was really weak, and I felt like this was a really big moment for them, like Baylan sending his Padawan off and being like, you know what, I will teach you one last lesson and then we're going to part ways because we want different things.
But it was weird how they just stayed. They just stayed. It was weird to me.
Baylan I expected to stay. His whole thing was, I'm here on this planet for a mission. Shin staying, I was like, why isn't she on the Chimera?
Yeah, why isn't she like
Baylan's
joining
whole thing
them?
was go back to Thrawn, take your place in the new empire, have your power, have what you want.
It feels like a weird trail off end for them, and you've almost got Shin commanding the night troopers that attack the Naughty train.
Sorry.
What? It's the Naughty, and they have a train.
Naughty train, and I just died inside a little bit. Okay.
The Naughty train, apparently. Yeah, she's almost commanding them, and then does she go with them when Thrawn pulls back the forces? I literally watched it an hour ago, and I can't remember.
No, she goes off and takes control of the Raiders.
In episode 7.
No, in episode 7, she just buggers off. You don't
Yeah,
see
when
that.
Thrawn's
she just leaves. She just walks into the sunset.
She should have just got into the lap with the
Yeah, she should have gone back to the Chimera. It would have made more sense.
I thought that she did. Yeah, actually, now you mention it. Yeah.
No.
Weird. Very.
He jumps on one of the alligator doggos and goes out into the sunset.
Strange.
Just before that, you have the conversation where Thrawn is like, we are missing a piece. Where is the second Mercy? Where is Lord Skull?
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's like,
we're a mercenary down.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I love, again, Thrawn's reaction is kind of, I made all my calculations based on 2 Force users, not 1.
Yeah.
Well, this could go wrong. And you could see his reaction. He's visibly just pissed. He's like, this is all set up for this. You have taken away one of my pieces. Well, this could go south.
Love
it more than I was just gonna say he mentions it more than once, doesn't he? So like you can tell he's pissed off because he's like, "Where is he?" And then he's like, "Oh yeah, well, with him missing or whatever." And you're like, "Oh, okay." It's like,
and then of course Ahsoka turns up in her ship. I think through 8 episodes, Huang's been my favorite thing.
Yeah, I agree.
When he's like, "Oh, we can't land the ship. It's against Jedi mission protocols," and she's all like, "We're not going to land the ship." And he's, "Oh no, not again."
What happened last time?
So good.
He's like, "Oh no, not again."
No, not again. And of course, she goes in does the Ahsoka things, which is fine.
He jumps like a badass. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then she goes and fights Balin, didn't she, as well? So she goes and gets in a fight with him while Shin's fighting Ezra and Sabine.
And doesn't she like smoke bomb him or something, and then just like fuck off? Like,
pretty much.
Pretty much. She's like
pretty much.
Yeah,
she's like, oh, all right, wait, I'm needed over there now. Goodbye. I'm out of here.
Peace. Yeah. I thought that was pretty epic. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah, because Balin's just like, it's going to end with one of us dying, and she's just like, no, it's not.
I mean, what I've loved though is between the pair of them, you have a proper old school medieval knight style of fighting versus samurai style of fighting, and it's just been. It's in the world of Star Wars where I absolutely adore lightsabers and choreography when it comes to like the prequels or something more heavy-handed like the original trilogy. Yeah. This has been really cool to watch because it is 2 very different styles, both being executed really well, and it's beautiful to watch. Like the thing with this show is the fact that we've had consistency with the writing because it's been Dave Filoni throughout. Yes, he hasn't done it perfectly, but there's been a hell of a lot more right than there is wrong. And you've had more consistency with the direction. And I think the choreography has been beautiful from start to finish. And another piece of why I put this show, for me, it's probably 3rd on my list of what they've done. I absolutely love it. Yes, it's not perfect, but then again, only Kenobi has ever been for me literally that just peak of this is everything I love.
I'm still wondering because I think the best we've had is The Mandalorian, and it's difficult. Isn't it? So, yeah, the choreography. I really enjoyed when Balin's first fighting Ahsoka, I think, in the galaxy. We know, but he's got 2 hands on the saber. He's gone for a dual grip on it, and I was like, "That's very cool." And that was more of the heavy slashing type things.
I really love that.
I'm trying to think where we went after that because I think that was near the end of the episode, wasn't it?
After that they meet up, literally just the whole reunition of, what do you think I was going to miss this reunion with Ahsoka giving us a hug, and then that kind of where you have Thrawn putting his forces
happened
back
in that episode.
No, I know. I was just thinking that.
No, but you needed to break from between the awesomeness that was Clone Wars into the finale. So this was the
other thing about the episode that we've not touched on is Ahsoka's on the ship practicing lightsaber things with the hologram of Anakin.
Oh yes, the hologram of Anakin that she kept Oh man, I
training her.
I was one of the reasons why it felt Rebels is because in obviously I think it's season 2 when you have the when Ahsoka first shows up, you have Ezra walk in going, "Who's that?" when she's watching one of those 20 holograms.
Yeah.
It's a lovely little kind of payoff. It's so cool.
I thought that was very cool. Anyway, so that was episode 7. Recollection, not a lot happened, unfortunately. And I can't escape the feeling. It did feel very Rebels. I'm not saying it didn't. I certainly do think it is. I can't, putting it in conjunction with episode 8, I can't help but I've been left feeling that the last 2 episodes feel like a trailer to Edge of the Empire.
Yeah.
Because nothing really happens, but then it shows you kind of a tease of everything happening.
I have thoughts.
Episode 8.
This is going to be interesting because I like it, but it's not perfect.
No, and that's exactly, you have to, like I said to Matt the other day, if you love something, you have to be able to critique it. It can't always be 100%. And that's the thing, right? And I personally, I love all the characters within Rebels. I loved Rebels so much. It's top, like, for me in regards to Star Wars. And I know this was not Rebels, as in what? It wasn't Rebels, it was Ahsoka, and I realize that. But for me, there was an equal bit of both between Ahsoka and like the characters of Rebels, but for me, it just felt like it fell short at the end.
Well,
and
it's the exact conversation we had yesterday, Tess, where you were just like, I can't help but to feel really disappointed with it. Rebels and all this, and I was like, you got to remember this was never billed as Rebels season 5. Everyone pointed at Rebels season 5. We've got to treat it on it's an Ahsoka series featuring Rebels. But as I said, and I think you came there, didn't you, Tessa? I'm like, 7 of 8 episodes isn't a bad run-in for a TV series.
God, no.
At all. The more I've thought about episode 8, the more kind of cracks start to appear for me, and there's things that I have not a massive problem with because I've got more important things in my life to be worried about. But there's just things that I don't feel like they stuck the landing. And I think I've said this to both of you. I don't feel like they stuck the landing. I got up early to watch it, and when it finished, I went, "Oh."
But and I felt the same way when I watched it. I felt it was like very anticlimactic, and obviously Phill feels a little bit differently than we do. But I also today, at the end of today, and I think I texted you like an hour ago, and I was like, you know what? I've thought about it more, and I have found the good things that I really did love about episode 8 that brought me joy. So you gotta take it as it is, So. But Phill really liked it. So.
Yeah, so I was also on my friend's podcast last night. We were sat there for a good 2 hours breaking down everything. And for me, so I've only seen the episode the once. But I did love it for moments, but not for the entirety. And that's kind of where I look at it for was the
question I want to pose to you, Phill.
Go for it.
In light of that comment. Is genuinely from a critical thinking standpoint, not a Star Wars fan standpoint. Take you back to your movie studies at uni.
Yeah.
Do you feel like Dave Filoni stuck the landing on a series that's not confirmed to have a series 2?
No.
Cool.
And I mean, from a very critical point of view, actually looking at I could see the landing point, and it fell short. And it fell short a lot of areas because it had far too much to tell in far too short a time. This really should have been there should have been another episode. There should have been have too many threads to tie up in one. It was just too much to do.
Tess is right. I think it should have been 10.
Yeah, I agree. That would have been perfect. And it was I think unfortunately he probably got given here's your 8 episodes. He went, excellent. Started writing it all, and then got to about episode 6, went, hang on a second, I've got to then cram all this into. Yeah. And as much as for me, Filoni is the chosen one, and I really do love what he's done. Yeah, critically speaking, no, he didn't stick the landing, but I could see
where was Favreau? Where was Favreau?
Where was Favreau? I'm going to make a point here as well.
Yeah.
Hypothetically thinking, we know that Disney will probably get greenlight this for a season 2. But if we were to think about this as a whole, for Ahsoka, if it didn't get a season 2, we are left pretty much with one of the biggest cliffhangers ever, and it makes no sense if you think about it in the context. If we think about it getting a season 2, we're like, yeah, they'll fix it, but without a season 2, it really didn't hit because there's no explanation for anything. There's so many holes.
It was billed as a limited series. Limited doesn't state, like, if it's a one-off, it's a one-off. Like Kenobi was a limited series, but Kenobi kind of wrote it and aired it as this is a one and done, which is why I really don't want them to make a season 2.
Holy fuck, Kenobi wrote it as well.
Sorry, you know what I mean? But like, there shouldn't be another one. They did it perfectly, and there's nothing more to tell for those characters.
And in this scene, I want to talk to Jawas.
But also, Phill is right, because if I think about Rogue One and how much I love Rogue One, them bringing in Andor was a piss take. Do you know what I mean? Like, why did they have to extend that? Rogue One was good in its own.
If you look what Marvel does historically through all its films, probably from Age of Ultron onward, maybe, when it got to a point with Marvel that they didn't know if people's contracts were going to end. So when Robert Downey Jr.'s contract was up as Iron Man, and Civil War, I think it's Civil War, when his contract was up, every film he didn't sign a new contract, so to speak. They'd be like, okay, will you do one more film? Will you do one more film? And in every film, if you watch it after a certain point where Robert Downey Jr.'s contract runs out, and you watch the character of Iron Man, in every film he's in, there's an ending for that character. Because if he doesn't come back, it's tidied up in the previous film. All right? So I think it's at the end of Civil War, where I think, what film is it? They're at Avengers Mansion. And he's just like, oh, I don't think I'll do this anymore. I'll pack up the suit. Bye. And then he comes, and it's like, oh, I'm not sure I'll do this. Or, do you know what? Maybe I'll retire or whatever. Done. Next one. And every appearance after his contract ran out was an ending for the Iron Man character. So if he didn't come back, they didn't need to explain. And they did a similar thing for a lot of the other Avengers as well. Until recently, with like WandaVision and things like that, where White Vision appears and just vanishes and there's no explanation for it. But there was a time period where, because they didn't know people would renew the contracts, they wrote the endings for the characters in their film. They did it with Thor as well. In every film, there's an ending for Thor. I feel like Star Wars could have used that. They could have sat there and in this scenario, like, it's a really grim example, but it's a completely valid example, is they brought in Phill and Skull. If they'd written an ending for the character in Ahsoka, then that gets around, like, Ray Stevenson passing.
Yeah.
You don't go, here's a huge build-up, what are we going to do with it? And like you said, Tess, you said it's a cliffhanger. This is, like, arguably, like, one of those massive cliffhangers that will never get answered. We'll never get a satisfactory end to what's going on. No. And I feel like, had they written in an end for Phill and Skull in Ahsoka, we wouldn't have that. And if Ahsoka felt complete, and the whole, at the end of the episode, them rocking up at Dathomir was like an end credit scene, I would have been really happy. But because of that, because everything's franchised now and everything has to feel open end. Actually, it's a really good. We'll bring it into the Star Wars loop again. Get away from the Marvel loop. We'll bring it to the Star Wars loop. The end of Mandalorian season 3, where it's just like, you have your house and you have your kid and you have your plot of land and you can just chill out.
Exactly. So it's not open ended. It's technically could be a closed book because he's just living his life now with Grogu in his little house.
Yeah, you don't need to explain it away. If the Mandalorian never gets to season 4 and we get no more Mandalorian ever, every character
at
in
least
that
we know
is pretty tied up now.
Yeah, we know Daddy Din Djarin is sitting there with little Grogu and he's all happy eating his macaroons, you know.
But then, like, and we know Bo-Katan's with all those Mandalorians now, and you know, and we know the threats of those characters. They've had like quite satisfactory endings. So if we never do anything with those characters ever again, no one's left feeling shortchanged.
Yeah, whereas this
feels right.
Really got
limited series, right?
It's limited.
So if we never get season
2. Limited's weird because Limited is both open and closed, because limited could just mean limited to 2, like Andor is, or it could be limited to 1, or it could be limited to 3. Whereas a standalone series, you have the openness to be able to kind of go in depth. I think where we've got the other problem I have a little bit is the fact that Bob Iger came in halfway through all this and went, cool, right, we're going back more towards the film side than the TV side. Right, cool, okay, here's your Filoni, here is your film, that's the Empire. It's like, okay, I now have to get all these characters, tie them all up in a neat arc for here.
That's a lot of pressure, to be honest.
Yeah, and this is what this is doing. It's kind of it's setting things up. So I think this episode, I think it's not necessarily the whole series, but the second half of this series especially will be retrospectively, it's going to be awesome. But we haven't got to the point yet where it can be looked back on. At the moment, we are looking forward to Heirs to the Empire, along with Mando Season 4 and tying everything up with Boba and everything. So there's a lot of loose ends yet to come. And I think retrospectively, it's going to be good. But for the moment, it's just missed that landing spot for me. As much as I love certain parts of it, because we haven't even delved into the individual moments yet. It's just been,
Well, you know, it's a Dave Filoni hold my beer moment, you know, like. So
it feels like they spent far too long trying to get to Peridia, and not enough time exploring the new galaxy in the Star Wars universe. And then, arguably, the what I would consider filler episodes, which were both incredible, like episode 5 and 6, they were both absolutely amazing. But arguably, they're kind of filler episodes to the whole thing. We spent too long getting there, and we didn't spend enough time at the destination.
No, I think the other thing that they've got to set up, and what people, the casual fan especially, won't know this, is if you haven't read anything from the release from Star Wars Celebration this year. Now, I was in the room for this. I was there front and center at the front watching this release happen. Was Dawn of the Jedi, which is set 25,000 years in the past. And where you have this whole, a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away, the stories are from this second galaxy, I reckon, for Dawn of the Jedi. So you have Filoni's been told, you now have to set up the sequel trilogy to make it all that bit more relevant, and do for that what the Clone Wars did for the prequels, which I think he can do. You have to set up Dawn of the Jedi, which he can do. Again, I think that's what Balin was off doing, and we'll get to that with the Mortis gods as much as they hate them. There's a thing for that coming. You then get to, right, here's Thrawncoat, and there was so many story points and too much to tell in such a too short a time, and that's why, as I said, for me, it's just...
Did you appreciate the absolute Uno switch of this whole season, though? The Uno switch of, let's spend 6 episodes where the only people in the other galaxy are Balin and Ezra. And then at the end of the season, the only people have gone back of, like, not Balin, Thrawn and Ezra. And then it swaps. Now everyone's in the other galaxy except for Thrawn and Ezra. I was like, that's what an Uno spot.
Should we start explaining episode 8 just to get to all these points? Because I feel like we're jumping back and forth so much. I mean... Yeah, let's. Well, how does it even? I don't even remember. I'm having a fever dream. How does the episode even start now? I'm like,
the episode starts with Morgan Elspeth.
Right.
Oh, killer! So killer!
Oh yeah,
it was awesome.
So cool. And being given like Mother Talzin sword.
Yeah, the blade of Talzin. Just like, here's magic.
Yeah,
fire, sword. Done.
And this is it. For someone who hasn't watched all of Clone Wars, but has watched aspects of Rebels and knows about the Night Sisters, the green glowy. I was very excited about the green glowy.
Yeah.
Tess, let's put it into some context. That sword is the sword of Darth Maul's mum.
Okay, there we go. See, that's stuff I don't know. That's cool. That's even cooler.
It's the sword of Mrs. Maul.
Yeah.
I assume that. Mama Maul. Like that. So the sword was super significant if you've seen Clone Wars, because doesn't Talzin use that sword when she fights Mace Windu? Yeah. So like it's actually really significant to the whole. Look at you, Ted. You're just like, I've not seen that bit of Clone Wars yet.
It's okay. You ruined so much of Clone Wars for me, Matt. By the time I get to it, I'll be like, oh, okay, this makes sense now.
Mad has now started it, so we've started watching it together. We only watched the first episode, and she's already kind of like, this is really cool. It's like, excellent. I shall train you. She'll watch more.
So,
and she hasn't seen episode 7 or 8 of Ahsoka because she's been back home in France. So she waited until she comes home to watch them. So sort of like, don't watch the spoilers. We'll talk about it.
Yeah.
But the magic though is so cool, and this is one of the reasons why I'm excited to learn about this new galaxy. Is the different aspects of the Force, because the magic is dark side Force user. It's just called magic. Because for some people, it's magic. Going cool. Here is green flame sword,
and it's why they like on her face as well with the markings. And I was just, what was it? I was saying to Tess like 5 months ago. We've said it many times, Tess, but the whole kind of like, I'm sick of Tatooine when there's a planet of necromantic witches. So
literally.
To finally get like the necromantic witches, like months on from that, like I'm so bored of Tatooine. There's Dathomir.
I'm bored of Tatooine as well. Like the minute when we were watching Rebels, me and my husband, and or was it just me at that point? I can't remember. I was watching Rebels, and they ended up on Tatooine, and he saw Obi-Wan, and I was like, oh, for fuck's sake! I was like, please,
but that served the purpose, though. That served the purpose. It ended the whole.
It did, and it was in and out.
It was perfect. Yeah.
That was kind of allowed because Obi-Wan is like, he shouldn't be here.
It wasn't half a season of Book of Boba Fett on Tatooine. Do you know what I mean?
So the Night Sister stuff was amazing. I really like the grandmothers. I really like it felt like Morgan, who was introduced in Mandalorian season 2, going toe to toe with Ahsoka, finally got like a really good progression in her character arc, and I cannot wait to see more of her as a villain going forwards in Star Wars.
Yep,
that was sarcasm, by the way.
I know, that's why I'm laughing. Can't wait. Oh wait.
I'm so glad that after 8 episodes of Ahsoka, she finally completes her journey, becomes a grandmother, gets the sword of Talzin.
Yeah, and then Thrawn is like, you're sacrificing yourself. Have fun. And she's like, for Dathomir, I'm fucked.
Thrawn's reaction was just so fucking funny, though.
Mm-hmm.
It was so funny. Oh, she served her purpose. What? Okay.
She served her purpose. Like, that's the thing. But Thrawn is about assets.
He's like, oh well.
Cold.
I know. It just killed me though.
Thrawn's allowed to be our assets and about to be cold. I would we've had some great villains like Moff Gideon. He's great.
Mm-hmm.
And Morgan.
What is with you and Moff Gideon?
I think he's an incredible bad guy. I think the actor, I think Giancarlo Esposito is amazing as an actor anyway, and I just freaking love Gideon. I just really like the character.
To be fair, when I actually watched the penultimate episode for Mando, when I was at Celebration, he did walk past us at the end screaming, "Long live the Empire!" I'm like, that's just cool.
That's awesome.
He's great. Like, the actor's great. The way he plays the character's amazing. And Phil knows I don't really tend to like the bad guy characters and stuff. I just really liked Gideon because he was the first, before Thrawn, he's been like the first really threatening villain in Star Wars for quite a long time.
It's a fair point to make, yeah.
You know, and he's so no nonsense. Anyway, he's great. But Morgan Elsbeth had a real big potential to have, in a post-Maul world and a post-Asajj world, to have a live-action Night Sister that we've spent 9 episodes of time with. Because I'm counting The Mandalorian, obviously.
Yeah.
We've had 9 episodes with this character. We've kind of gotten to know her. And then we've learned more about her. And then we've watched her progress. Why could it have not been the Coven of Witches that held them off and sacrificed themselves so that Morgan could have gone back to Dathomir with the Sword of Talzin?
When I thought obviously
really important.
Well, see, in a finale, someone always dies, right? It's just a thing, and it's Star Wars. Someone's got to die. I didn't expect it to be her. Out of all of the characters,
I'm not gonna lie, I expected it to be Sabine. That's who I expected to die.
Same. Or this is something that I was holding to myself, and I don't know why I felt this way, but I kept thinking that Ezra was super sus the entire time, and he was going to turn on them or like be part of like something else. I thought there was going to be like a spin to that, and he was going to like 180, but it never happened, thank God. But it was either Sabine or somebody else, maybe like I don't know. I don't know.
Sabine would have been the perfect sacrifice because she would have been the, oh no, I've thrown back to the galaxy.
Exactly.
There's a repercussion to her action.
Yeah. But no, it was poor Morgan, just like, oh yeah, I'm OP, and then I'm not. Oh no, not OP.
Yeah, that really, it's kind of one of those throwaway things, I guess. Like she had this relic, and if the three witches did their magic and held them off, it would have made the attack look more significant. It would have made it. I know Ahsoka needed a rematch against Morgan at some point. That was obviously going to happen. But if it was three witches that had to hold back Ahsoka and Ezra and Sabine, that would have been cool. Well, Morgan made her escape with Thrawn and then returned back with his sword.
But we did get the epicness that was Death Troopers, like proper necromantic zombie troopers.
Even like the Night Troopers themselves, like I knew they were going to get back up after they cleared the room.
Yeah,
but when
the zombie Death Troopers as well, so cool.
My favorite bit was Ezra, and then he was like, "Is this normal?" And they're like, "Nope, that's new." And you're like, "Oh."
Yeah. And it's the Night Sisters doing what they do, and that's why they're cool. It was,
which was cool. I did like it.
Oh, okay. Previous to this is the first of my big gripes with the episode.
Okay, yeah, okay. This is the one that I disagree. Yeah, I do disagree on this.
Ezra building the lightsaber. I don't mind that Ezra's building a lightsaber. I don't have a problem with that. I don't mind that they talk about the blade emitter being thin.
I love the little jab at the people who had a jab at Rebels artwork for the fact that the blades are narrow.
What is complete nonsense to me, and I hate it, and I know Phil tried reasoning with me, and it just wasn't flying, was that Huyang was just like, oh, I just happen to have a spare of one of Kane's lightsaber parts. And I'm like, if you drive around in a 1945 Ford, and it happens to break down, and you go to a garage, and some dude's just like, oh no, I just happen to have this spare wheel just in case this happens. I don't think someone who trained like every Jedi, like one of the, if not the oldest being in Star Wars, going, I just happen to have a spare part for this person who I've not seen in like 30 years.
The cute bit though, Matt, was that he referred to him as Caleb and not Kanan though. Which is cute.
Fine. We've got a link to Kanan who's already in the show. He's called Jason. And we got no time with Ezra spending time with Jason. We have a living link to Kanan. We didn't need Huyang just to happen to have a part.
No, I love it.
I want to add to that by something that irritated me. So Matt's thing was the building of the lightsaber. Mine was the fact that Ezra has not wielded a lightsaber in 8 to 10 years, probably 8 minimum, and he's just like out there kicking ass. When we watched something like Obi-Wan, although Obi-Wan is older, yes, who hasn't wielded a lightsaber in years, and he's clunky. And me and my husband were having this discussion, and I was like, Ezra is super smooth with his moves. It's like he woke up this morning and could do it. It's like, that's really weird. He's not clunky or rusty. And I was like, I get that he like wields the Force and like he's in tune with the Force, but I just would have liked to have seen a little bit of rustiness before he goes into the lightsaber battles, being like, oh yeah, no, I'm super, check me out. You know what I mean? I felt that was a little weird.
No, it's all right, Tess, because as we found out, this episode is about people that can't do stuff for ages, then couldn't suddenly do it well.
I will get onto that in a second. I'm conflicted with that. But no, so my gripe is a different gripe. It's where the fuck did you get the Kyber crystal from?
Yeah, and that
is also a point.
But it's okay, Phil, because Huyang probably has spare ones. But
yes,
he
probably does.
If you need the third from the left grip tape from Mace Windu's lightsaber, Huyang probably has it. Or if
does it. That's
I really like Kit Fisto's belt loop.
To be fair, though, Huyang probably took as much as he could from the temple before everything went to shit, or at least have everything on standby whilst he was out in the galaxy when Order 66 went down. So he was gonna have spares with him anyway. So I quite like the fact that he had Kanan's with him, because he just had what he was left with.
But you know what I would have liked?
The Kyber crystal's been like, where did that come from? If he's probably got a spare,
you can't just go out and get a Kyber crystal.
Although, to be fair, though, actually, if you look at the back wall of the training area, there are lightsabers on there.
Isn't it?
Yeah,
yeah.
so
there's a bunch of
hilts. Just nicked one out of there, because Ezra's first one got destroyed. His second one's in.
I missed that gun one. That's blaster one.
Where it's that. Cool. Although my other gripe is the fact the lightsaber blades looked a little bit short. I can't really tell why. They just looked a little bit on the stubby side.
Because it was Kanan's emitter. Oh no, probably because there was a component in it, Phil, that was like part of Yoda's lightsaber.
No, not just Ezra's. Like all three of them. Like all three of their lightsabers, for whatever reason, just looked that little bit short. I don't know why. Well, actually, no, I know why. And it's a gripe I've got with Star Wars at the moment, it's purely from an annoyance point of view from my end, is the fact that technology has come so far they can literally use prop lightsabers with blades, and now the lightsabers don't look correct. They look too good. They don't look how they used to in that proper, like, it's light saber, not a actual blade there, like you could, a physical prop they've got.
It's not like a laser. Yeah, I got you. Yeah.
So it just, that's, I know it's a really pernickety gripe, but it's a little. No,
but that's
it's simple. No, they all want to be the Darksaber.
Don't. My husband actually made a point, and I thought about it too, is that, like, in the originals, if you really think about the original trilogy, and you think a way that a lightsaber cut through a human being or a stormtrooper or something like that, they're not the same. It's not the same level. And I tried to explain to Gawain in the best way that I could, is that, like, yeah, you have to understand, but like, people are going to get sick and tired of the lightsaber just being so overpowered all the time. And so maybe they've dulled that back a little bit so that we're not like, oh yeah, they can just fix everything with a lightsaber and kill everybody. But I still was very, and I get that, but it's also kind of like, oh, I miss the originals in the original trilogy where you could literally just someone's just in half, gutted somebody, someone's head is lobbed off, and it's just kind of like, I don't know, I kind of miss that in a way.
George Lucas started that with the Magna Guard in Episode 3. He's like, you can't have something that can do everything, so I needed to make something that could stop them, which he then did on with the Magna Guard with their staffs. So and I get it, and I do like that. You can't have a fix it all. The Force can't fix it all. It's like with the Doctor's screwdriver in Doctor Who. It can't do wood. Like, it's like, it has its problems. And you can't have a lightsaber that does everything, but at the same time, it is that OP weapon. It has to be, because, well, the Force and the lightsaber and the Jedi is that kind of pinnacle of everything.
It doesn't make sense until it makes sense, and then you're like, why does that make sense? If that makes sense.
But
in my mind, I knew what I was saying.
Yeah.
That was kind of like my first big gripe with the episode, I think. And I like that we all have different gripes about the same scene. That's really funny. We all have, everyone has a problem with that scene, but it's very different.
Not the same one.
Which is very fun.
Let's talk about Sabine using the Force, because
can we not?
Because I'm on board with it, because she has worked her ass off for it.
So it's not GCSE maths.
Doesn't have to be.
Nah.
The Force resides in all living things. Everyone has the ability to tap into it somehow.
But she went from 0 to 100, and I can't get over that. Like,
now that is my gripe. Yeah. I love the fact that she was finally able to tap into it, but it was a little from nothing to big ass Force push. The actual lightsaber grab, perfect. It mirrors Luke from Episode 5.
I would have been fine with that. Yeah, agreed. We agree. I would have been fine with that.
Yeah, I don't know. Do I? That's the question. I don't like how it came about. The Force came about because it felt way too much like X-Men, where the whole thing in X-Men, which is your mutant power, appears at times of great, like, emotional stress. and I'm being choked by a Death Trooper. It's unlocked the Force. It felt like X-Men in that way. It didn't feel Star Warsy.
The
It didn't
Force
feel.
has always been like that, though.
Has it?
Yes.
That's a good point,
if you go
actually.
back and watch anything through Clone Wars, through Rebels, with anything that comes down to any of the Force-sensitive children, if you look at Rey, for example, so 9, when she's able to use the Force lightning, that's great tension in what she's trying to do. There's examples littered throughout Star Wars of because Star Wars is about, well, not so the Force, especially the light side and the dark side, is about emotion. The Jedi try to get rid of all of their passions and try to be as calm as they can, whereas the Sith use their hate, their fear, their anger. So it's emotion. It's tapping into that emotion. So it makes 100% sense to be.
Yeah, I do agree with Phil, because there's aspects, but think about it. Think about Rebels. Think about Ezra and Rebels, and Kanan teaching Ezra. There is a lot of moments where it comes through in specifically the first season, where he's using his emotion, especially for his parents.
Like
and then there's that aspect.
He just summons the giant ass one because he's just like, no, enough.
Oh, yeah, but
and then you just all of them.
That is emotional, right? If the Force came about in Sabine, with her and Ezra having a conversation of, you did what, you've doomed the galaxy, it gets really, really heated, and she's like, gets really upset or something, and it's like, enough, and pushes him or something like that. I would be like, okay, but this was, I'm being choked, I need an out, and it felt a bit like, it's like you said about lightsabers, it felt a bit like, we've got a way out of this, it's called the Force.
No, and again, I disagree, and the reason behind that is very much, if you watch even in the earlier part of the episode, one of my gripes is the fact that when they were going towards the gate to begin with, her putting her hand out just feels useless because she's not able to use the Force at that point. Whereas by that point she is desperate. At that point she is not thinking of her training, she's not thinking at that point, she is just trying and does it. It's do or do not, there is no try. Eventually it's just has to be done, right, saber, got it.
I see where Phil is coming from, actually, to be fair, Matt. I do get that.
No, I don't disagree. No. I just don't like Sabine having the Force. And there was something I was reading or watching the other day, and they were talking about something similar. And they were like, a Mandalorian Jedi has existed in every Star Wars fan fiction forever. You know, it's not, and it's like Grey Jedi. And let's not go into that rant, but it's existed for so long in fan fiction and like fan creations that, I don't know, it just feels like kind of cheap to me.
Are you forgetting Tar Vizsla?
No, I'm not. But that was so long ago. That was so long ago in the whole kind of thing. And obviously, you know, she's part of the Vizsla clan and stuff. I don't know. I feel like after she's been told by like all her training with Kanan, where it was like, you can't do this. And then Huyang and Ahsoka being like, you can't do this. And then suddenly she can do it. I didn't like her having the Force. I was fine with her using the saber.
Yep.
And then it was the sudden jump. It was it's okay, I'll Force push you.
But don't get me wrong, I think it would have been better if she'd used her grapple to get the lightsaber and kind of still, like, the Force could have been there in some aspect, but I'm okay with how it's been done, but there was a different way around it.
Because there's that scene where they're fighting and they're all using their lightsabers, and Ahsoka goes, Sabine, like blasters, and she's like, oh, okay, and then she obviously turns around, starts using her lightsaber again, and Ezra goes, oh, nice moves, like being all suave because Ezra. But yeah, I don't know. I wish she just would have stuck to being a Mando. I think that would have been cool to them each have their own little thing. And her being a Mandalorian and using her blasters with the, you know, she's got the Beskar and everything. I think that would have been, for me as well.
I mean, to be fair, it's also my other biggest gripe of this entire season. You have Sabine, who didn't blow up one single thing.
Yeah.
Yes. Oh my God, thank you. Like, she didn't even attempt to use any bombs. That was her whole thing.
She was the demolitions expert, wasn't she? She did all the blowing stuff up.
No painting, no bombs. Like,
Nope. Her gun was in a box, and I was like, that's disappointing. I was like,
I just feel like they mishandled the character of Sabine to the point that even when it comes to episode 8, Sabine didn't feel like Sabine. And I just feel like this could have been any generic character, and they could have had the same arc, the same things happen.
Made her too moody. Does that make sense? Like they made her too. Like I understand.
So Filoni's obviously written it all, and I get he knows the characters better than anyone. He has the vision, but I do feel I agree. It was a miss. Natasha has got the nuances of Tia Sakar's Sabine down. Like she's the actual way the character has been played by Natasha has been spot on. It's been perfect. The writing is what's made it that little mishap, whereas the actual casting, perfect. And can I also just say the casting for Ezra, fucking perfect. I absolutely love it.
Ezra was amazing.
100%.
Very, very good.
Like the casting for this show has been incredible, and it's one of the reasons why I'm so sad that we won't see more of Ray Stevenson as Baylan. It's sad, of course, that the world has lost a great actor at a younger age as well. The amount's only 59, I think it was. He wasn't
that old. Very young.
But it's the character has so much more to offer. And that's me as a fan just going, okay, I lament we're not going to get more. But the casting for the show has been incredible from start to finish. And I applaud them for that.
I just don't feel like Sabine did anything that made me feel like she was Sabine. And I think giving her the Force kind of took away from that as well.
I agree and I disagree. The only thing I disagree was that her decision to go with them, give them the map to go and find Ezra. That was Sabine, because it's the very selfish nature of Sabine. The rest of it, I agree with you. But that I think the original pivot point for the show was Sabine. The rest of it, I agree. It's not been.
But if you take everything that character did, everything that character said, all of that character's motives, the suddenly having the Force, the last 15 minutes of the season, if you completely recast that character, completely change how they look, and give them a totally different name, it would have been like, oh, this is a completely original character.
Yeah.
If you get what I mean, there's nothing that was very I'm watching Sabine except for like one moment.
Yeah. Are we going to talk about the elephant in the room as well in regards to this episode? Because I'm going to bring it up. I'm just going to, because something that really
was in it. Where was Matt Reborn?
I think I don't know.
The galaxy.
He's got to get to the gig, man.
He's on his West Coast Galaxy tour. I've got to go back to Tatooine. Do you want to get in my ship?
Get out of my way, man.
I'm gonna get to a gig.
You're gonna make me laugh too hard. I love me some Hayden Christensen, but can we talk about fucking Anakin showing up as a blue glowy at the end? Because that just made me want to fucking throw hands.
Can we talk about a lot of things at the end, which was just weird? That's my biggest gripe, but I mean, yeah, sure, go ahead. No, so Force Ghost Anakin, I was like, okay. Before we go into that, because there's going to be a lot more conversation around that with Morai and the Mortis gods and stuff. Yeah. And the one thing that I've thought about today, which I think we'll talk about before we go into the Mortis gods, if that's the same with everyone, because I think that's going to be a long conversation.
Yeah,
obviously, Ezra escapes by being force thrown onto the Star Destroyer.
The ship. Hides as a stormtrooper.
Sabine could have suddenly
not a stormtrooper, Death Trooper.
When he turned up on Home One, why was he still dressed as a stormtrooper?
Thank you. Oh,
because that's Ezra. That is so Ezra. The whole I love the moment where he nicks the armor and it's like, yep, everything's fine. Like that is Ezra. That is what we know from Rebels.
It's Ezra. That's if he was maybe just wearing the helmet, it felt weird to me that no one went, "Oh fuck, it's a stormtrooper! Open fire!"
Although my gripe is slightly before that of how the fuck did he find the fleet?
How did he find the fleet? Did the Chimera pass right next door to it and there's a really short ship ride, or he was like, do you know what? I'm just not
awkward passing windows of Hera and Thrawn.
5 minutes.
I'm just not going to get unchanged out of this zombie armor that's been housing a rotting corpse for God long.
But also, like, can we just talk about the sweetest moment possible where Chopper just runs to Ezra, like he's like, "Daddy's home." That brought me so much joy.
It's just the reactions felt very strange because when was the last time anyone on that ship saw a stormtrooper?
Yeah,
and they're like, everyone point guns at him, but the war criminal is going up to him. It's probably
also.
Right? Yeah.
I know that in her mind she was thinking it, but when Hera saw him and she goes, "Ezra," and then they all are like quiet, and she's kind of making that face, and she doesn't ask where everyone else is. Like, she's processing that in her mind, and she doesn't necessarily have to say it out loud, but I would have liked to have been like, "Where are they?" or something from her. Like, where is everyone?
Again,
the fuck happened?
There's another conversation that probably happened, and it would have been really nice to have seen happen.
I think we will see it happen.
Yeah, fair point.
In a movie, because this episode was just a fucking trailer.
That's losing it over there.
I feel like Ezra maybe should have gotten out of the rotting flesh stormtrooper armor.
Fair enough.
Or going to see his friend.
Enough. I love it, but fair enough.
That would have been.
Okay.
No, I'm going to fly for 5 days, but this thing smells like dead flesh.
Right. Do we have to talk about the fucking Mortis gods?
Let's go on, Phil. Let's talk about your favorite thing in all of Star Wars.
God, I hate the Mortis gods. Gods have no place in Star Wars. They just don't. Not in like this.
I agree, though. I don't know much about them, but I do agree.
It's an annoying concept, and if you watch,
I love them.
I hate them with a passion.
But it's dragging an element of religion into Star Wars, isn't it? In a way,
yeah, it's dragging an element that didn't need to be there.
No, I do get that.
Especially with the Force. The Force shouldn't be only if you're in X religion do you get X ability kind of thing. It's the whole point of the Force. It resides in all living things. It surrounds us. It penetrates us. It binds the galaxy together. Verbatim from Obi-Wan. There was no gods in it at that point. Why they need to be introduced, I have no idea, and I do not like the whole. I don't like the trilogy. The Father, the Son, the Holy Ghost aspect of it. The middle, the good, the bad aspect of it all was very much. It just has no place, and
really ironic about.
I've come round to the world between worlds, but I can never come around to the Mortis gods.
Super ironic that like Jedi is a real world religion.
Oh yeah, no, on the census I am Jediism, like because I can.
It's a cult, Matt. It's not a religion. It's a cult.
On the census it says I am Jedi. Like I do put on there the Jediism.
For me, I don't want to get into a religious debate because this isn't the place for it.
No.
It's fundamentally in my mind, religion is holding a series of beliefs. So I feel like the Force being this manifestation, because what is it Christianity says, like God is everywhere or something. So I really like them. But if you think of them less as ghosts and more physical manifestations of the collective groups usage.
They're figureheads. Yeah.
Thank you. That's the word.
You'll come across this in Phase 2 of the High Republic, which is the convocation of the Force on Jeddah, which is different aspects of the Force of followers and believers coming together. You have light side users, dark side users, people who don't use but are Force sensitive and open. You have so many different aspects coming together, and I love that. I just don't love the idea the Force entirely is then controlled by gods behind closed doors. I'm like, that's not how it works.
But for me, it's less being controlled by gods, and it's more like the end of Ghostbusters 2, where there's the pink ooze, and they walk around with the Statue of Liberty singing "Your Love Takes Me Higher," and it defeats the ooze because everyone's collective positivity permeates and becomes a force in and of itself. I don't.
What a comparison, Matt.
To the end of Ghostbusters 2, so I don't think that. In my mind, they don't necessarily just control the Force; they're just there because so many people are using it. Like if everyone in the country puts their kettle on at the same time, it blows up the electric grid because all of the power is focused to one place. I'm running out of
Alright, yeah,
metaphors.
I'm with you.
Basically, I feel like there's a bunch of people walking around using space magic, and all of that power has to culminate into a source, and that source isn't controlling the Force. The gods are a byproduct of people using the Force, not the other way around. That's how I look at it.
Well, because like I mean, like, because in for example, if I was to throw out like paganism, for example, that's an idea that God is everything and everywhere. If there was a god or a goddess or whatever you believed, it's the energy, it's the earth, it's the grass you walk on, it's everything. And that's kind of the same way that the Force works. It's in everything. It is everything. We breathe it, we drink it, the Force is everything. And it is weird to me as well, and I do agree with Phill in this sense, and this is where I disagree with you, Matt, is that the minute you get a figurehead in control of everything, it starts to lose its I don't know, it starts to lose its I don't know, power, I guess, in a way. Because you then have everything. But it gives that idea that they are, because you have a god. So for example, using God as an example in this, God is the whole he's the father, and he looks over you, and that kind of aspect. But instead of everything being everything and everywhere equally, it's now, oh well, these three people or this one person in particular is in control of this aspect of everything, when it was supposed to just be this fluid thing. I don't know. I'm explaining this poorly, but
no,
I also feel.
But to be fair, and I will caveat everything I've just said by the fact that there is still more to come, and I'm always willing to change my opinion on things because of new bits that are then told. Like The World Between Worlds is the prime example for this. When Rebels first aired and it got to season 4. I vehemently hated it because it ruined the ending of season 2 for me, because of Ezra pulling Ahsoka out, and the aspect of potential time travel and things. I hated what it was used for then. It has taken Ahsoka for it to become and shown more as a portal into the mind and into memory and into just a window for me to understand it better and go, you know what? No, I understand more about what it's supposed to be, and now I'm okay with it because I've taken the time and learned more about it, rather than me having this one particular episode where I can go, this is awful because of this one bit here. And the Mortis gods I have obviously seen in Clone Wars, then in Rebels, now we've got Ahsoka, we're going to have it more with the Empire or whatever happens next. You're going to have the Dawn of the Jedi, that's going to be a thing as well. There is more to come, and I will always caveat things with this, saying that my opinion will change at some point, whether it be for better or for worse. That's a thing. And it's one of those, while of doing the show with the pair of you, is the fact that you'll, Tess, I know we've not known each other long, but compared to Matt and myself, but I am obviously very passionate about all this, and I will happily talk about it till the cows come home. But I will always listen, learn, and kind of absorb as much as I can. And this is one of those aspects where you can have so many viewpoints on one literal single point, and it is incredible.
It's something we're all passionate about and love.
I just think they're neat.
They're neat.
They're neat. I think it's a cool idea.
Well, how do we want to wrap this up? Really, our feelings.
We haven't spoken about Anakin, so let's hear your opinion on that.
That's true. That was my big gripe. I want to throw hands. I just felt like it was a cop-out, like they had to throw Hayden Christensen in there again. And it felt like we've already done that at the end of episode 6. We CGI'd him in. Do we really need...
Yeah, 100%
do we really need another...
No, I love it.
Did we?
I absolutely love him being there. Right.
But,
she has learned the lesson. It's Force Ghost Anakin kind of bringing him finally full picture. And I love it.
Okay.
I'm totally here for it.
Okay. Matt, do you want to talk about the bird? Because the bird.
The bird, the Morai, is obviously connected to the statue of the daughter being missing, because for all intents, Ahsoka's the daughter now, isn't she?
So subtle. It was so subtle. I almost was like, was it, but wasn't it? Because we had that conversation. I was like, okay, I'm not going crazy because you mentioned it. So oh, okay.
You're sort of, to a degree, proving a point I have about Star Wars at the moment, Tess. Is for someone who's not seen that happen in the Clone Wars, you're just like, what's the bird? Why is the bird there? What is it doing? And it's a really good example because there's so much in this episode that if you're not actively consuming Star Wars media, it's gonna mean nothing.
It's fan service.
So it's in Mando. Like Moray's in the Ahsoka episode of Mando. So
it is. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
It's been there before, so it's kind of it's been explained in the live action verse, as it were.
But I have friends that are.
It's the daughter, Tess. It's the daughter of.
No, I know.
The gods.
I do have a point to say as well. Is like, and Matt just mentioned is like, oh, and I sometimes think there's a little bit of fan service for us, specifically the people, more so you guys, but who have seen the majority of, like, I'd say like 89.99% of all of Star Wars, or maybe more. And it's interesting because I have friends and family who are watching Ahsoka who know the base level of Star Wars, the originals and the prequels, maybe the sequels as well, if they've seen them, which was me up until like 6 months ago. And watching it without any of that context, I can't imagine what their enjoyment levels kind of like meh with Ahsoka, because they're like, I don't get it. And they don't really know who Ahsoka is. They don't even know who any of the crew is. And so it's kind of, or even like Thrawn. So they're like, what are all these new characters and where is all this coming from? And it's kind of like, to them, they're like, what is happening? It's weird. It doesn't feel like Star Wars. But for us who have watched Rebels and you guys who have watched Clone Wars, there's so much more of an aspect to it. And it is really made for us and not for the general public. And that's how I felt. Like the average person who's seen Star Wars.
What's very interesting, if we go back to the ones with the Force days, Phil, remember the Ahsoka episode of Mando season 2 that we spoke about? And I was like, I don't give a fuck. I don't know who she is. And then went on to watch Clone Wars and this now.
Yeah.
I feel like The Mandalorian was so universally successful and accepted because you could go into The Mandalorian with no prior knowledge of Star Wars. You could get a lot from it. All of the characters were new in season 1. I think all of the characters were new in season 1. My stepdad watched Mandalorian and he loved it. He thought it was great because it required no prior knowledge of Star Wars. Yeah, there were nods in places. They were just like, if you know Star Wars, this little thing is for you, but the rest of it is. And Mandalorian was very commercially acceptable and very successful. And I think partly because you didn't need a previous knowledge to go in and enjoy it. Yeah. And I feel like Andor was probably very successful because you didn't need any prior knowledge to go in and enjoy Andor. I feel like Ahsoka, you do need a lot of prior knowledge to get the most from it. And I'll be honest, when I watched that episode, I didn't even realize Balin was stood on the Mortis guards. I was like, oh, it's just a statue of an old.
Oh, I noticed it right away.
I'm not even seeing there was the figure next to him. I was like, yeah, okay, probably like some Dathomirian dude or something. I didn't even notice the sun. So, I completely missed that, like, when I watched it, which is really funny. I had to come up in, like, a TikTok, and I was like, oh, it's a thing. But I got Morai. But again, like, the Morai thing, it's just like, if you don't know, it's just like, why is there a bird there?
It was a bird. Yeah, exactly.
So I agree, but I will counter it from the point, though, that you can't have everything be like that. You can't have everything be, everyone must have no prior assumed knowledge, and nothing can be deeper than that. This is very much
it's hard to find the middle.
Yeah, it's hard to find the middle, but this is very much the if you know, you know show.
I don't think
I love it for that, but there is, you have to be very careful between the no knowledge and all the knowledge to find the ground.
I think there is a middle, and I feel like they did 3 seasons of it, and it's called The Mandalorian. I feel like Lucasfilm or Disney have already achieved the middle.
You know what else is a middle? Rogue One is a middle. I will stand by
Rogue
that.
One is a middle because you're going in. Yeah. It's a completely new set of characters. There's one or two. Do you need to see the Clone Wars to understand Saw Gerrera and Rogue One? No. Do you universally, like everybody else on the planet, know who Darth Vader is?
Yes.
There's Rogue One. Congratulations. There's your middle ground. There's a little bit of fan service, and there's a new cast of characters to enjoy.
That aren't Jedi.
So I feel like Disney have already mastered that middle ground with Star Wars. And do I feel like Ahsoka would have been better if they just went and animated a Rebel Season 5 and did Ahsoka with their own story that involved maybe Luke and Ben and set up Luke's Jedi Academy with him? Yeah, maybe it would have been. Because there's an anticipation that Ahsoka was going to be Rebel Season 5. And there's a group of people who thought it was going to be that. There's a group of people who have never seen Rebels before. And there's a group of people that know who Ahsoka is. And from like The Mandalorian and stuff. So I loved it.
While we're at it, why don't we... Well, I was going to say, while we're at it, we'll just have a Freddie Prinze Jr. like pre-Kanan death series. Like...
Oh, no, it is called Kanan and the Last Padawan. It's a series of comic books.
Awesome,
I'm not even joking.
Okay.
Yeah.
There you go.
Okay, well, at least but it's not Freddie Prinze
That and
Jr.
New Dawn is fantastic for that as well.
I feel like Disney. I really enjoyed Ahsoka, and I feel like any season nowadays that gets 7 episodes out of 8 being fantastic is a win.
Is a win, yeah.
I was saying this to Tess last night. I feel like the most bingeable series we've had this year has been One Piece.
Yes. Oh my God. Yes. Because
you go into it, and if you know nothing about it, it's that thing. It's super accessible. It's super fun. It's super bingeable. And I think the show I'd rate highest this year is The Bear Season 2. But the point is, it's very, very rare to have something be consistently brilliant all the way through. So I think Ahsoka is 7 episodes out of 8. So I'd really highly rate it. I'd watch it again.
Yeah.
But I think that with Disney, because it's the problem they've got with Marvel as well. There's a barrier to entry with Marvel now in that you need to have watched 20 films to understand what's going on in a TV series.
Which is why I haven't attempted.
No, that's exactly it. And my worry is that Star Wars, The Mandalorian was so successful, and arguably The Mandalorian is what has driven Star Wars to where it is now. If you think back a few years before pre-Mando with like Solo and the sequel trilogy, Mando went a long way to... Yeah, Mando went a long way to rejuvenate, and I kind of feel like it's a fine line now, because if you're going to rely on stories that were told 4 or 5 years ago, I think from a commercial aspect of your generic, I have Disney Plus people.
You do have other bits and pieces coming, like The Acolyte, which is going to be for anyone who, even for us who read The High Republic completely, there's going to be brand new characters and brand new stories for people that no one's going to know of.
Which is amazing. That's the success button. I think what they run the risk of doing is almost Star Wars gatekeeping itself.
This is the point I was going to make. It's like, where do you stop? I love Star Wars. You know, we all love Star Wars. We want to continue it on. That's great. We want more movies and series. That's fantastic. But like, where do you draw the line? Where do you stop to the point where you don't drag it into the ground? Do you know what I mean? Like, when does it stop? And I fear that it's going to have the Marvel effect of that, you know, where Disney's like, okay, let's just bleed this freaking dry. Do you know what I mean?
No, that's the problem, because the Marvel films, the quality on the Marvel films has gotten terrible. Phase 3 has been awful, and Phil knows how much I love those films and like have done for a very long time. And even like the reviews for Loki season 2, which starts tomorrow, are awful. They are so bad. I'm just really like nervous to watch it in case it is terrible. But Marvel's gotten to that point of being so bloated, they're just churning out content because they can, not because they want to. And
I don't even bother with Secret Invasion.
No, exactly. There you go.
I haven't found the motivation.
I haven't watched a movie. Let me just go back here. I haven't watched a movie since.
I will watch it.
What was the Captain America one that was good?
Oh, Falcon and Winter Soldier. That was actually really good.
The Winter Soldier was amazing.
That was the last one I saw.
Oh, the Winter Soldier. The Winter Soldier. Yeah, that film was incredible. Do you know what? It's a shame, Phil. because it goes to a really good point, and I think what you've just said completely backs up what I'm saying. Is that I've not watched Secret Invasion because why should you care about it? And it's a shame because Secret Invasion is amazing. But that's the point. It's such an attrition piece. And I think Skeleton Crew will be good. Completely new characters, new story. I think
I'm excited for Skeleton Crew the most.
The Acolyte, new characters, new story. I feel like it's getting to a point of concern is that firstly, is Star Wars going to start gatekeeping itself? And then secondly, what are the length of the baby reins they're putting on this? Because is it going to be like Marvel and they're just going to go, we're going to pump out 4 films and 3 series a year?
No, they won't. They're not going to go that far, I believe. But it's a good point to end on, I think, is the show has, as you're saying, 7 out of 8 episodes is never a bad thing if it's been, and it has so much good to talk about. Yeah, but this is the reason why we're here. We're not hating on it. We're just giving honest opinions on what we like and what we don't like. And for something that has been, long awaited for some people and for others, not so much, it's been a fantastic show. And there's so much more to come, but you've got different aspects in different eras. And this, for me, as much as I can sit here and criticize it, I'm also not going to lie. I'm so excited that Thrawn's back and so excited for the Heirs to the Empire. So excited to see what's going to come with him and stories to come. So I'm not going to end, for me personally, I can't end this on a down, because actually, just as you're saying, 7 out of 8 episodes, I'm happy. And there's so much good stuff.
And we got some banging tunes. We got some great visuals. Like, you know what I mean?
Hands down, I think this is the best scored Star Wars TV show. I'll put this above Mando season 1, which I absolutely adore, but this has been Kevin Kiner has absolutely knocked this out of the park. It has been incredible.
God, I don't even know how to rank them in my mind. I'd have to really think about that. It was like the other day, me and Matt were talking about our top 5 favorite Star Wars characters, and I was just listing them all off. Like,
Hondo, and Hondo.
Well, look, this is how you fix the problem of Star Wars gatekeeping and it doing it all to itself. Give us Hondo. Just give us Hondo. Everyone will be happy.
Hondo. Give us Hondo. Justice for Hondo.
Hondo.
Do you know what? As a complete side point, this may be interesting. We were talking about who would we cast as the live action Hondo, right, Tess? And you were like Johnny Depp, and I was like, no, it's going to be really cliche.
It's because Pirates of the Caribbean,
Antonio Banderas.
Yes.
Now Antonio Banderas.
To a T. Oh my God. There is nothing I wouldn't do for that boy.
Antonio Banderas. Sorted. I think that the journey on Sith and Scoundrel so far has been very interesting because the first thing we spoke about was Andor, and my feelings on Andor. And then it was Book of Boba Fett, and my feelings on Book of Boba Fett. And then things started to get really positive with Ahsoka before now.
You brought me on and it all went downhill.
It's okay, because next we'll talk about Kenobi.
We are doing Kenobi next.
Okay, so I get to rewatch. Oh, I get to rewatch Kenobi. That's fun.
See, Kenobi's really good. I really enjoyed Kenobi.
Oh no, Matt! No! I'm gonna cry like a little baby again. I can't. Oh, that was emotional. That was trauma. Obi-Wan is trauma.
Actually, Tess, you got to go back and watch Kenobi after having seen Rebels.
Oh, is it worse?
Fight that Obi-Wan has with Vader, where he cracks the mask and is like, "No, you killed Anakin," which is exactly the same as Ahsoka's fight with him.
Ahsoka does the other side.
Ahsoka and Anakin. Yeah.
He's like, "It's okay, Anakin's dead." I was like, "Hang on a minute, this is the
thing." Didn't kill him. I did.
Oh,
I did. Yeah. It kills me every time. I cried. Okay, you know what? I can't tell if I cried harder at the end of that or the end of Rogue One. It's a toss-up, honestly.
Oh, Kenobi, hands down, every single day of the week.
I hope Andor season 2.
I don't know. Okay, you know what? You keep going on about how bad it is. I have to watch Andor now.
No, I love it. It's one of the best things ever done.
Oh, okay, fair.
For me, it's in top 3. But
okay, fair.
Not a fan.
There's no aliens.
No, but the thing is, Matt and I have said this, well, interested to hear your point afterwards. Is Matt and I have said this time and time again. It was the right things done in the wrong order. And then as soon as
Okay,
you kind of put things back in the way they should be, it's just yes.
Okay, I'm gonna watch Rogue One again for like the millionth time, and then I'm gonna go back and watch Andor and see how I feel while watching Obi-Wan. And I'll just sneak in Clone Wars in there too. I don't have enough time for Star Wars. Oh my god, my brain.
Yes, I would at this point, with the way everything's going, I really would put effort into watching Clone Wars.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Because
I'll leave this on that then.
You can hold a conversation about the Mortis gods, but you need to watch those 3 episodes. And I feel like there's some real big things in Clone Wars that it's becoming quite. I feel you'd probably argue the same thing. It's becoming like quite necessary to have watched Clone Wars at this point.
Yeah, it is.
Like here's Ahsoka's journey and Maul's journey and the Mortis gods and Anakin's journey.
I do want to see more Maul and Asajj, because after reading Dark Disciple, I grew to love Asajj so much for who she became. Because
most amazing character development journey from
crazy character, because I know a
cartoon character to an actual fully developed. Like, okay, if you haven't seen her full arc, I'm gonna leave it to you to
but I know about
your opinion on it. But honestly, it's one of the best in the show.
Oh, and you get to see the whole Dathomir arc as well, Tess. Like, not only I know what Dathomir is.
And that's what I wanted. I wanted those witches.
Isn't the complete lovable rogue you know by the end of Rebels? His intro is quite dark.
Yes, he's lovable. He's so morally flexible.
His intro is kidnapping kids.
Yes.
I love that.
We can leave them to die in outer space.
Phil, as my mother always said, 1 hostage is sensible, 2 hostages are good business, and 3 hostages is having a contingency plan.
Yep.
Oh my god. Well, on that note.
Yeah, on that note, we have been chatting for quite a while on this, but the finale did require, especially the little extra in depth.
A little
Mother
bit
always said, talk softly and drive a big tank.
And on that note, good night all.
Good night.